Those are the questions that everyone else in Sariah Hildebrand's life was asking. Except for the defendant, Zerius Hildebrand, as he already knew all those answers. On Sunday,
he used his Fred Meyer rewards card. That is what separates this case from every other domestic homicide that has ever been prosecuted. Not just the blood-soaked mattress discovered 4 days later, not just the 96-gallon trash can purchased at Lowe's at 8 in the evening while his wife's body lay less than a quarter mile away. Not even the letter he wrote in the present tense while referring to her in the past. It was the loyalty card. At 12:26 in the afternoon on Sunday, August 6, 2023, hours after Sariah Hildebrand had been shot in the head inside their apartment, Zerius Hildebrand walked into Fred Meyer and bought new sheets. He typed in his rewards number. He wanted the points.
On Sunday, August 5th, 2023, Sariah had planned some events and presents as it was the defendant's 21st birthday. She had planned for some friends to go out. A few came over. She made him a present in the form of a beer cake, and she was excited to celebrate him. One of those friends that came over was Marie Wentz, to their apartment at 5210 Mockingbird Drive, Unit 13. Marie had become friends with Sariah since she moved to Alaska. They were inseparable, texting constantly. They were together that day. That morning, they had gone to the gym, as they frequently did, and then ran some errands in preparation for his birthday. Later that evening, the group went to Dave & Buster's. They were winning prizes and playing games and having a good time. Sariah was extremely excited to win a Pickle Rick plushie. She was texting her mom about it. She was even Googling how to win the most points at Dave & Buster's. And she did win it. And she took a photo with her husband to celebrate that.
By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a purchase receipt, a DNA swab, and a single past tense verb combined to build a first-degree murder case beyond reasonable doubt. On August 5th and 6th, 2023, in Anchorage, Alaska, Sariah Hildebrand, 21 years old, a member of the Alaska National Guard, employed at Bread and Brew, was shot in the head inside apartment 13 at 5210 Mockingbird Drive. Her husband, Zerius Hildebrand, was charged in Anchorage Superior Court with count 1, murder in the first degree under Alaska Statute 11.41, 100 requiring proof of intentional killing, count 2, murder in the second degree as an alternate theory requiring proof of knowing conduct manifesting extreme indifference to human life, and counts 3 and 4, tampering with physical evidence under Alaska Statute 1156, 610, for tampering with Sariah's body and with the crime scene. The prosecution was conducted by the state of Alaska. The investigation was led by Detective Troy Clark of the Anchorage Homicide Unit. Sariah Hildebrand baked her husband a birthday cake shaped like a tower of beer. She had planned the entire evening. The group outing to Dave and Buster's, the dancing downtown, the Uber home she ordered when he was turned away from the bar.
Marie and Isaac went their separate way in the parking lot. As Sariah walked inside with the defendant, helping him along, but he was walking fine. They get inside alone. And that was the last time Sariah Hildebrand was ever seen alive. In that apartment that
She was
night,
texting her mother at 1:41 in the morning, excited about winning a Pickle Rick plushie. She was inseparable from her best friend Marie Wentz. She was the kind of 21-year-old who Googled how to maximize points at an arcade game. The 4 counts against Zerius Hildebrand do not just accuse him of killing her, they accuse him of spending 5 days constructing a lie around her death while her mother flew in from Utah and soldiers from his own battalion searched the woods. The financial and reputational cost of a first-degree murder prosecution in Alaska, attorney fees, pretrial detention, family disruption, is measured in years, not dollars. In this case, that cost fell on a man who told detectives he did not want to waste anyone's time. The prosecution's opening established a timeline constructed from surveillance footage, cellular records, retail loyalty data, and DNA analysis. At 20:24 a.m., on August 6th, Sariah's phone recorded its last activity.
However, between 2:12 and 2:24 a.m. that day, Sariah found evidence of the defendant cheating on her on Snapchat and Instagram, sending photos to girls, offering to fly them out to Alaska, getting photos from them, sending plenty, even offering to kiss and make it better. The last photo that we see on Sariah's phone that night was at 2:24. After that, at 2:40, Marie got a call from Sariah's phone. Unfortunately, she had been home for a while. She didn't see it. It went unanswered. Just 8 minutes later, at 2:48 a.m., 911 got a call from Taylor Engstrom, a neighbor in the apartment just across the courtyard. He calls in and says, about 30 seconds ago, there was a gunshot. It sounded just outside my window. It was very loud. I don't know where it came from, but he called it in.
She had discovered evidence of the defendant's infidelity on Snapchat and Instagram between 2:12 and 2:24. At 20:40 a.m., an unanswered call was placed from her phone to Marie Wentz. At 2:48 a.m., neighbor Taylor Engstrom called 911 to report a gunshot. Officers responded but could not locate the source. Zerius Hildebrand was not contacted that night. Sunday morning, he sent a thumbs-up emoji from Sariah's phone.
I believe a Snapchat, asking how Sariah and the defendant were feeling. She got a response from Sariah's phone, but it wasn't from Sariah. That response was from the defendant, sending a thumbs up that he felt fine. Marie asked if they would want to go to lunch and get some food, probably to help with some of the feelings they were having that morning. The defendant said, no, we can't go, we don't want to go. Sariah already left and walked to work at 10 that day. Marie found that a little odd, considering the defendant said Sariah forgot her phone. Sariah was always on her phone. 21-year-old on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, texting, all of the above. However, she didn't push it. She also found it odd because the night before, Sariah had said she intended on calling out. So she didn't expect Sariah to go to work, let alone to walk. But she understood the defendant had her phone and that she would hear from her friend later. At least she hoped. But
He told Marie she had walked to work and forgotten her phone. At 10:44 a.m., he texted Sariah's manager from Sariah's phone, pretending to be Sariah calling out sick.
Nadia Jones was Sariah's manager at Bread and Brew. At 10:44 a.m., she got a text. Hey, this is Sariah. Can't make it in today, giving an excuse. Nadia took that at face value, and no one else heard from Sariah's phone that day. Marie had reached out a few
Then he
times
went to Fred Meyer, Sheets, Gatorade, marinara sauce. He used the rewards card. He returned at 6:12 p.m. and purchased hydrogen peroxide, cleaning supplies, and Q-tips. At 8:00 p.m., he went to Lowe's and purchased a brand new 96-gallon wheel trash can, stickers still attached. He returned to Fred Meyer one final time for a new mattress pad. He did not call 911. He did not call hospitals. He did not report Sariah missing until Monday afternoon, 30 hours after she was last seen alive. And when he finally reached out, it was to tell Marie she had been missing since 10 in the morning on Sunday, which was the cover story, not the truth.
About midday, early afternoon, Marie gets a call from Sariah's phone again. It's Mr. Hildebrand. He says, hey, Sariah's been missing since 10 a.m. yesterday. Marie goes, what do you mean? It's been 30 hours. She doesn't have her phone. She immediately gets concerned. She tells him, I'll come over as soon as I can right after work, but she was stuck there for a few more hours. And she did go straight over. She asked, have you reported her missing? Where could she be? She's so concerned for her friend because she's been missing for so long, and she doesn't have her phone, and she didn't hear from her. Once Marie was with the defendant, that's when calls started being made to hospitals, jails, and even to 911, which hadn't been done yet. Marie made that call.
Please dispatch. Hi, I think my friend is missing. Okay. And why do you think she's missing, or he or she's missing? I haven't spoken to her in 2 days, and her husband hasn't heard from her in over a day, like 30 hours now.
And you'll hear the entirety of that call. He was there, and Marie put it on speaker so he could answer questions that she didn't know. But Marie made that call at 5:34 p.m.
When detectives visited the apartment on August 8th, Zerius told them he had spent Sunday at home vegetating. When they mentioned cameras, he revised the story and added errands. Guacamole supplies, he said. There were brand new sheets on the table. He told Detective Clark he had never even been in the sheet aisle at Fred Meyer.
When asked, why did you wait so long? Over 30 hours to report her missing, he said, I didn't know if it was serious. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. When Detective Clark asked, where do you think we're going to find Sariah? He paused, hesitated, took a breath. You'll hear many of those statements. He says, I think she'll be within a 2 to 3 mile radius of here. We'll later find out that was correct.
He paused, he breathed. He said he thought she would be within a 2 to 3 mile radius of the apartment. She was found less than a quarter mile away at the bottom of a storm drain 15 feet deep on August 10th, a blanket, a pillow, a sheet, tan military-style gloves, all down there with her, under Alaska Statute 11.56. 610, tampering with physical evidence requires that a person believing an official proceeding is pending or about to be instituted alter, destroy, suppress, or conceal physical evidence with intent to impair its availability. The prosecution's theory is straightforward. Every purchase made on August 6th, the sheets, the hydrogen peroxide, the trash can, the mattress pad, was made in anticipation of exactly the investigation that followed.
They were looking around the apartment when they were in the living room with him. They saw a set of brand new sheets on the table. They asked him about it. He said, I didn't buy those. I've never even been at the sheet aisle in Fred Meyer. She must have bought them when I was on field training the week before. Okay. Officers ask if they can take a look around the apartment. Just make sure she's not there in one of the rooms they can't see. He allows them. He says, go ahead, take a look. Officers do. They don't find Sariah. At one point, they notice that on his bed that he shared with Sariah is a mattress pad, like a mattress topper cover. And they ask, hey, why don't you have sheets on the bed? He says, I do. They're under the mattress topper. Detectives go, why would you put them under the mattress topper? He says, oh, we got the mattress from someone crummy, that's why. Here, I'll show you. And he lifts the edge of the mattress topper, showing the sheets. However, when he does that, detectives can see that there's a space under the bed. There's not a box spring. They ask, hey, can we take a look under there? Mr. Hildebrand gives an alternative offer. I have embarrassing stuff under there. It's inappropriate. Detectives just point out they want to make sure she's not under there. He says, no, she's not. She wouldn't fit. Detectives accept that answer at that time and leave. But before they...
The DNA swab from the carpet cleaner, analyzed by forensic biologist Dr. Emily Matthews, matched Sariah Hildebrand. The trash can found by the landscaping crew 200 yards from the apartment contained reddish-brown organic staining consistent with blood. The mattress, when flipped during the search warrant execution on August 9th, was so saturated that the metal bed frame had imprinted into the dried blood on its underside.
Now, on to August 9th, August 9th, the Wednesday. Police at that point had applied for and been granted a search warrant to search 5210 Mockingbird Drive, Unit 13. for evidence of what happened to Sariah. Originally, on the surface, just as they were there wasn't anything obviously out of the concern. Pickle Rick made it back on the bed. But when they began to look more closely, they were able to start seeing reddish-brown stains. When they began to look more closely, they could see those reddish-brown stains. Multiple places all over the apartment. And that's what they saw when they lifted the bed. Not embarrassing sex stuff, but a mattress so soaked through it with blood that when it was flipped, the framing it was on actually imprinted into the blood.
The Sig Sauer handgun found between the couch cushions was tested by firearms expert Samantha Castle, whose analysis established that the bullet fragments recovered from Sariah's skull by medical examiner Dr. Kenneth Gallagher during the August 11th autopsy were consistent with rounds fired from that weapon.
Tan Sig Sauer handgun tucked in between the things. Just near there on a table, they found letters authored by the defendant, where he says, "I don't know where you are. I hope you're found alive. If not, if she's found alive or dead, please bury her with me." But one thing he says is, "I loved her," in the past tense. Sariah's still missing.
A firearms examiner's match is not a confession, but it is, under Alaska Evidence Rule 702 governing expert testimony, admissible scientific evidence that places the murder weapon inside the apartment of the man who told detectives he spent that day vegetating at home. The prosecution is not required to prove its case through any single piece of evidence. It is required to prove each element of each charge beyond a reasonable doubt. The constitutional standard established in In re Winship 397 U.S. 358 1970, which the Supreme Court held is required by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. What Winship means in plain English is this: the jury must be so thoroughly convinced by the totality of the evidence that no reasonable person could maintain a genuine doubt about guilt. Each piece of the prosecution's evidence, the loyalty card, the DNA, the ballistics, the past tense letter, the accurate prediction of where the body would be found, is one thread. The prosecution's argument is that every thread points in the same direction. No innocent account of the events of August 6, 2023 explains all of them simultaneously. The prosecution also charged Zerius Hildebrand with tampering separate from the murder because the cleanup itself constitutes a distinct criminal act under Alaska law. This distinction matters for sentencing and for jury instructions. A jury that finds reasonable doubt on the murder counts can still convict on the tampering counts if the evidence of concealment is independently sufficient. The letter Zerius wrote to APD, "For all the people working the case, I'm sorry the information I gave you wasn't the best," is not an admission of murder.
You'll hear from many witnesses in this case. You'll hear from Meredith Barney, what happened when she spoke with the defendant. You'll hear from Marie once about how it went that night and what she found. And when the defendant asked her before Sariah's body was found, what?
It is, however, admissible under Alaska Evidence Rule 81 and $2 as a party admission, meaning it can be used against him without implicating hearsay exclusions. Most people assume a letter of apology to the police helps a defendant look remorseful. Under the rules of evidence, it is exactly the kind of voluntary statement prosecutors use to establish consciousness of guilt. What the jury in this case must decide is whether the accumulation of those facts, the timeline, the purchases, the DNA, the ballistics, the letter, the past tense, the correct prediction, constitutes proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Zerius Hildebrand intentionally killed Sariah Hildebrand and then spent 5 days trying to ensure no one would know. There is no jury verdict yet in this proceeding as documented in the source material. What is documented is the prosecution's theory, the physical evidence, and the words Zerius Hildebrand said, including the words he said to his mother after his arrest.
And you'll even hear Mr. Hildebrand tell his mom after he was arrested in this case, "I've tangled myself in lies, probably can't be undone." For all of those reasons, after evidence is presented in the coming weeks, the state will be before you in closing. Apply those factors to the elements that I've put up, showing how the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree.
He told her he had tangled himself in lies. Probably, he said, in a way that could not be undone. Every detail Sariah Hildebrand left on her phone that night, the text to her mother, the photo with her husband at Dave and Buster's, the unanswered call at 20:40 a.m., is part of the evidentiary record. She documented her own last hours with the ordinary thoroughness of a 21-year-old who had no reason to believe it was necessary. The law exists to read that record on her behalf and answer, with institutional authority, what happened inside apartment 13. Next, we examine how Alaska courts handle the admission of a defendant's pre-arrest statements made during what began as a missing person inquiry, and whether the Fifth Amendment protections that attach during a custodial interrogation apply to voluntary conversations with detectives who have not yet made an arrest. Was Zerius Hildebrand's decision to use his Fred Meyer rewards card while purchasing cleanup supplies of a person so confident in his cover story that he felt no fear of detection? Or does it suggest, as some defense strategies would argue, a person in a dissociated state of shock who was not thinking clearly enough to plan a cover up at all? And does the answer to that question change what the prosecution must prove about the intentionality of his mental state?